Wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. As you know, not too long ago we went to Benin, West Africa, and the main purpose of that trip was to update or to get some work done on the clinic property. We were going to work on the solar shed as well as the two houses, the residential houses there, one for the doctor and then one that we'll be living in for the next several years. And we were about a week into the work when we got a call from Colin Ovenell that the shipping container with the medical supplies, the solar panels, the electronics, all that was on its way. Brian later confirmed that and let us know that we kind of needed to get ready to receive the container. Now the container had only been shipped 6 weeks ago, and that's unusual. Normally it takes a couple of months before a container will show up. As soon as we heard from Colin and Brian, we decided to do a couple of different things. Number one, we needed to get a cement pad in place for the container, so once it got here, we could place it on that cement pad. It would later be used for storage. The other thing we needed to do, which was even more important, was fix the roads. Now, to really appreciate why we needed to fix the roads, you need to see the roads. Now, the roads are full of washouts. We've got all kinds of gullies in them. There is a bridge. The water decided not to use it this year. And this is a main thoroughfare between Boifo, the village of Boifo, and Guinea. And so you've got all kinds of cattle in donkey carts and cattle carts and whatnot to contend with. We decided that the best thing to do would be to bring in a couple loads of laterite and to fill in the road, the areas where it was needed, and then to just try to top coat it a little bit and clean it up. The first thing we decided we needed to build was a grader of some type. So we went ahead and welded a bunch of I-beams together, threw some bricks on top of it, and the first prototypes gave us a little trouble, but after a while we got it to where it was moving some dirt. It wasn't moving a lot of material, but enough that it was filling in the different holes and moving a lot of the loose gravel and getting it to the place where the road was really pretty smooth. It was able to really kind of get it smoothed out and get that good working road for a truck to come through. Next step was to build a ramp. Now we needed to build some kind of a ramp to get the material from the back of the truck into the clinic. And this wasn't crucial for all of this stuff, but for some of the really heavy pieces of equipment that were fragile, the last thing you want to do is drop it, so we decided we'd build a good solid ramp, and that way we could roll some of the equipment right off the back of the truck and into the clinic onto the tile floors and then just leave it there. So we used some more I-beams, some form boards that we had used for concrete, cut them up and built a little ramp. Now, we contacted Isa, the local contractor with the dump truck, and asked him to bring us several loads of laterite. The problem was, after about a load or two, his truck broke down. Not uncommon in Africa, but a little bit aggravating. We waited several days. His truck wasn't getting fixed. He was waiting on some different parts, and so we decided that we would go ahead and organize a couple of crews, one from Boifo and then another one from Guinea. And we'd start filling in some of the major issues, major problem areas with rock and then gravel and different things that we could find locally. So that's what we did. We started grabbing some local material and getting those filled in. So Isa's truck got fixed the day before the container showed up, and he was able to bring us several loads of laterite that we were able to then spread over top of the rocks and the stuff that we had filled in some of the major ditches with. It turned out we didn't need as many loads as we originally thought. After we got the road fairly well prepared. We heard from the truck driver Friday morning. He was in a town about an hour away from us. He called us about 7 o'clock in the morning and informed us that he should be to us by about 10 o'clock that morning. They gave him 3 hours to make a 1 hour trip. So about 9:45, we went out to the road and we started waiting because we figured, you know, he might be early. And we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And about 11 o'clock, we decided we were going to go look for him. We started heading down the road, and we went about 45 minutes down the road, and we found him on the side of the road with a flat tire. Now, you might notice, on the tail end of his truck there, on the trailer, he had the opportunity to use 3 axles. He only took advantage of 2 of those axles, and on each one of those axles, rather than having, you know, 2 sets of tires per side, per axle, he only had 1, which made a grand total of 4 tires instead of 12. Now in Africa, that makes sense, you know, and to have them bald with the cables showing out, it's totally normal. Unfortunately, his good tire blew, so that left him with 3 tires that were relatively bald, 1 that only had, I think 5 out of the 9 lugs still in operation. He got his tire fixed, and we went down the road a little ways, found out that his top speed was about 15 miles an hour, or 20 kilometers an hour, which is great, because you can't really break stuff at 15 miles an hour. Bumps really aren't a problem. So, the good news is, I don't think anything got broke. The bad news is, it took him 3.5 days to make a 1-day trip. But we got to the place where he would have to come off the blacktop and get onto the dirt road, and he just flat out refused. He said, no way. I was paid to come to Guinea. I was not paid to go out to some little podunk village, and so this is where I'm stopping. So we pretty much killed the rest of that day trying to get him a route from the blacktop to the dirt road without a whole lot of success. We found a route that was relatively good, needed a little bit more work, and so we called ISA, and we got another couple loads of dirt lined up for the next morning. Next morning we got out, we got that finished up. By noon, the container was on its way out to Boifo. The truck driver actually said that the road that we put in, the road that we fixed up, was much better than some of the blacktop he'd been driving on. In fact, he might have broken his speed record on our road. I'm just saying. Well, that brings us to the container safely arriving at the clinic, which is what you wanted to see. here it is. Container got to the clinic. We backed it up to a platform. And before we cut the locks, we had a time of prayer. Pastor led the group in a time of prayer.
Seigneur, nous avons vu comment tu as pourvu. Et tu, à travers, Seigneur, ta puissance infinie, tu as pourvu à tout ce que nous aurions besoin pour que ce conteneur soit là. Seigneur, malgré les intempéries, malgré tout ce qui...
Pretty much the entire village showed up. It was pretty neat. They all showed up. They wanted to either help or at least watch. And I was getting a little nervous because a lot of times when you have that many people watching, stuff starts to walk off. But I'll tell you what, the old men, they kept an eye on everybody, and nothing walked off. One kid tried for a tie strap, but that didn't work out. He got chastised pretty severely. So everybody, I helped unload the container, got everything off the container. And we pretty much had it empty by 3 o'clock. At that point, we got the truck backed up over to the slab, and Isa, with his truck, helped us pull the container off. Set it on the slab. And by 4 o'clock, man, the truck driver was on his way home. He was done. So things went pretty smoothly. I think the only issue we had was there was one solar panel that we found that was cracked. Other than that, man, everything showed up good. So that's the update. First 2 weeks in Benin, and got to do some construction, got to do some road work, got to unload a container. Can't wait to see what the next couple years is like.